Welcome to the Awaken on Purpose podcast, where each week you'll hear inspirational stories of heart-centered leaders who have awakened to their higher purpose and taken that leap of faith to follow their heart and make an impact in the world. Get ready to be enlightened, empowered, and transformed with your host, Jennifer Spohr.
To welcome as a guest to the show today, Tracey Maxfield. She is a retired nurse with over 36 years experience in gerontology, mental health, and dementia care. She is a regular guest on well-known author and radio host Peter Rosenberger's show, Hope For the Caregiver on Sirius Radio. Tracey has written multiple articles on dementia care, medical research, and mental illness bullying in teenagers. She is the Purple Angel Dementia Ambassador for the Okanagan, BC, and NAASCA Ambassador for BC, Canada. Tracey experienced her first episode of clinical depression in her 20s and lived with chronic depression ever since. However, nothing prepared her for the acute depressive episodes she experienced in 2015. After enduring years of intense workplace stress, harassment, and bullying, she plummeted into an abyss of darkness, hopelessness, and despair, the likes of which she had never experienced before. Encouraged by a psychologist, Tracey started a blog, Escaping the Rabbit Hole, My Life with Depression, to better help her friends understand. Over time, Tracey began to heal and found that out of the darkness and despair, there is hope, there is life after depression, and that is so true. Tracey, welcome. I'm super excited to have this conversation with you.
Thank you so much. It's an absolute pleasure to be on your show.
So I know we alluded to this just now in the bio in terms of what inspired you to do some of the work that you're doing today. A lot of people have life experiences, but they don't share them with others in a bigger way. What inspired you to take that further step to share your work with the world?
So when I was down in the rabbit hole, as you said in the intro, this was like the worst depression I'd ever had. I didn't even recognize it was depression when it first happened. I actually thought it was a stroke because of all the physical effects that I was having as well as the emotional. And the suicide ideation was something I'd never had before as well. And it was just a struggle. In my book, I say I was donning battleware to fight the war to save my life every single day. And when I started the blog, it was initially to help my friends understand what I was going through, because depression is an invisible illness. And so to all intents and purposes, you look fine. But people don't know what's going on inside. And so it was to help them understand. And then when the book finally was published, it was to send a message to everyone that they're not alone, and that they will get better. If they want to, it's going to take time and work, but they can and will get better. And that originally was my purpose. I didn't want anyone to go through that same horror and pain and just that torment of being stuck in this darkness and think that they were never going to get out and they were alone. And so that was initially the message that I was planning on sharing. And then shortly after the book was published, I was invited to go and speak to some teenagers at a local school. And initially it was to share how I used imagery in my book. I likened my brain one day to an erupting volcano with the pain and, the acid-like burn. And the teacher there said it would be really good for me to read sections, so it would encourage those that were not doing well in English to understand how imagery can help them write more creatively. And so that's what I thought I was going to do. But when I arrived at the classroom, it was 15-year-olds in an English class. I had taken some of the illustrations I'd used in my book, and they're black and white illustrations which convey an emotion without saying words. And so it's like a little black stick figure running from a huge black cloud with hands outstretched, which is trying to grab you into this black cloud. And as I was displaying the illustrations behind me, the entire classroom dead silent. And I could hear whispers amongst the kids going, "That's how I feel. That's what my mum says she feels like." And when I started to read from the book, hands just went up in every direction. And the entire hour of the English class was spent answering questions about bullying and suicide and mental illness and self-harm and depression and what could they do and how could they get for help. And I think the teacher was very surprised. She did not see that coming. And I just thought, okay, it's just this class, very, very well thought out, articulate questions. But when I returned 2 weeks later for the Human Library, which is Career Day, I was there on the premise of being what I thought was an author and publisher of a book. And instead, I spent 8 hours talking with 63 teenagers who confided in me what they were going through with their mental illness and cutting and suicide and anxiety. And that was my defining moment. I call it the pivotal moment when I finally got home, and the tears, I cried and cried because I could not believe that many kids, ages 11 to 15 were in so much pain, were actually wanting to end their life. And when I got home and started doing research and found that this is a global problem, that changed my focus. A doctor friend said to me, "That is your purpose." And I kind of laughed and thought, no, it's not. I'm not going out talking about this. And he said, think about it. 63 kids who don't know you from Adam just came and told you what was going on in their life. And that became my purpose.
I'm trying to find words right now because that is so amazing. And as you were sharing that, I just had the goosebumps from head to toe. I mean, the work you're doing is so needed, and I'm not surprised, by the numbers that you shared, because it really is a thing that is still just not encouraged to be talked about today in society. I feel like there's more awareness around it, but it's still, many people and children are conditioned to believe that, that a vulnerability is a weakness. And I believe that it's a strength. It can be.
Absolutely. And it's funny that you say that. I mean, I love Brené Brown. I mean, her books resonate with me. They resonate with millions because she tells it like it is. And I've just read her book on vulnerability. And I think the challenge is, as you exactly said, it's not a weakness. I believe it's a strength, because when we acknowledge our vulnerability, it enables us not only to open up to ourselves and open for more positive things to come into our life, but it enables us to open up to others and to kind of understand what they're going through as well and offer them that support. And yes, I mean, studies show that by the age of 14, 50% of all mental illnesses will have shown signs and symptoms, and 75% will by age 24. So we know that children and teenagers are living with mental illness, and yet society still kind of tuts and shakes their head and says, oh no, it's their hormones, or they're being difficult, or they're just looking for attention. And they're not looking at the big picture of it's perfectly feasible, and it probably is actually happening, that, this 12-year-old girl has anxiety and depression. And instead of us just saying, oh, it's just those hormones, she's just going through a stage, if we actually listened to what's going on in her life and supported her, it gives them so much power. Like my motto, my philosophy is engage, educate, empower, because I believe if we listen to and give the information to these teenagers, to these kids, and give them strategies and the tools so they can devise their own management plan and life plan. It empowers them and makes them stronger and more confident in their own life. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do, because we know that kids don't like to be told things, but if you give them information, sometimes they can think of really good solutions that you and I may not even think of. And it just helps them feel stronger and better able to then take that next step, if it's not even helping themselves, to maybe help someone else.
Absolutely. And I mean, these conversations should be happening in every school.
Oh gosh, yes.
Every classroom. And, I don't share this a lot. I'm not sure that I've ever shared it on my podcast, but at 14, myself, at the age of 14, I had tried to take my own life because
oh my goodness,
of a not so great home environment and some other, issues that I had, right? And I was away from my mom at the time, staying with another family. And as a result of that, my mother had admitted me into a children's psych ward. And I'm telling you, I will never forget what it was like to be around other kids who were also, feeling that level of depression. And I mean, if anything, it was a deterrent. It was a driver behind, figuring out a better way. But it was something that I didn't talk about with anybody. I mean, not even my closest friends, for so many years, because of the stigma, around it.
Yes.
So, I mean, the work you're doing is amazing.
Thank you. And I mean, there are so many of us out there that are all trying to create more awareness and to make mental health a subject that's spoken about, just as we talk about our physical health and our medical health. And that's kind of what I'm trying to stress, that if we accept brain health as a very necessary part of our life, and that the brain actually is kind of the engine that keeps everything else going, because without our brain, we really aren't alive. People start looking at it from that perspective, and then what they can do to have brain-body harmony because of the brain-body connection, then I'm hoping that, slowly we reduce that stigma, but also acknowledge that, guess what? You can have a mental health struggle at any time. You can experience a mental health disorder at any time. I mean, we have children age 4 being diagnosed with depression. That, to me, that is so, it's horrific, and it's sad, and it's overwhelming, because it's like we've snatched childhood away from kids.
This is what I'm about to bring up, could be a whole nother podcast on its own, but I also feel that in addition to everything that you're saying, I also feel strongly that a disconnection from our spirituality is also a huge cause of the worry, the fear, the depression, and all of these other illnesses. I feel like there is huge value, no matter what someone's belief system is in terms of religion, right? It's just, there's huge value in whatever that is for you, to be connected with your faith and to be able to recognize your intuition as guidance versus the mind chatter, because there's actually a very clear difference in the two, I believe.
No, I absolutely agree. And I mean, I am a huge advocate for bringing in brain health and mental health education into the classrooms, but I wanted to start in, when children first go to school, and it's not necessarily the mental health education. It's teaching kids values. of kindness and compassion and support and understanding, and how to manage their emotions, that feeling angry and sad and mad, and not necessarily bad emotions. An emotion is a response to something, it's an unmet need. And if we are able to get our children to understand how to cope with life is not always fair, and to draw on that inner strength, for the kids to learn to love themselves first and to be kind and to help other people, and to have that respect and understanding, and that moral compass. I think we've lost, society as a whole has lost so much direction, and we're bombarded by so much hatefulness and negativity and war. And now we have the pandemic and social media, and we have kids that cannot make any sense of it, and yet we're kind of forcing all these things on a brain that's not even fully developing. And I mean, I'd hoped with this pandemic that the homeschooling and the families being home would lead to more family connection and the value system of what is important. And I think in many homes that has happened. Unfortunately, in others, it hasn't. It's very difficult. It's a very difficult time for kids right now, for sure.
It is. Absolutely, it is. Tracey, every experience in our lives shapes who we are. What experience in your life do you feel has been the most significant in shaping who you are today?
I have to say the rabbit hole. In my book, at the end, I say that I consider what happened to me, as horrible as it was with the workplace bullying, the ultimate depressive episode, the suicides and everything that came along with that, I consider it a gift. Even though I don't want to ever go through it again, I consider it a gift because I think it brought me to a point where I could really start to understand and learn who I was and what I wanted from life and what was important in life. Part of my recovery and healing process, aside from journaling, was actually gratitude, expressing gratitude and mindfulness, and starting to appreciate what is truly important in life and what brings me joy. And I think that was my defining moment. I always say to people that when I emerged a very different person. I still had the British quality and the accent and the sense of humor, but my whole perspective changed, and it enabled me to see a bigger picture. You could call it, many people say it's like a spiritual awakening, or the butterfly emerging from the cocoon. But that was I call it my defining moment, because when I emerged, I emerged with a new purpose in life, and I liken to my journey right now is I call it my new life journey. And so, yes, out of the darkness, I keep saying, if you will develop so much resilience and strength because you've exposed your weaknesses, your fears, your vulnerability, but the skills and the strategies and the values and the inner purpose that you emerge with makes you such a very different person. And as I said, I'd like to think I emerged a better person, a nicer. I was never mean, but when I say a nicer, kinder, more, let's say more spiritually aware, more connected person to life and what's going on in life and human relations. It went past, not financial, not material. It's human connection. It's human compassion. It's looking out for the other person, that we're all in this together to support one another. And I think that was even though I was a nurse, that was the really bringing it home of, at the end of the day, what is it that is truly important and meaningful in your life?
I don't think we would be able to understand the value of that without experiencing that contrast. It's those fears.
I think so, yes.
Yeah, it's those fears and vulnerabilities, all of those darker experiences that are crystallized into wisdom that help us in the healing, right? But that also uniquely equip us to be able to serve others. And the way that you've accomplished that is really beautiful.
Thank you. And yeah, it's true. And I feel that, and I bet you will agree that in society, we're not even encouraging our younger generation to start experiencing pain and fear. We're telling them it's bad, but allowing them to explore and understand and strategize ways to make them feel better and to move forward helps them develop strength of character and resilience. And it gives them life lessons that make them better equipped, that when it throws them another curveball, which it will, they're better able to handle it instead of turning to substances or violence or other things to help them deal with it.
Absolutely. Happipiness is an inside job. I mean, Oh,
it is. It is.
Yeah.
And I mean, everyone says you have to learn to love yourself first. And as an adult, many people still struggle with that. But I mean, children, teenagers, they want to help others. They're open and giving, and society in general seems to squash that out of them and lead them down a more negative, fearful path. If we taught our kids at a very early age not only to love one another, but to love themselves and to help develop their self-worth and their sense of self and their gifts, I would anticipate, I would hope that we would not be seeing some of the problems that we're seeing right now, because so many kids end up going down dark paths because of the self-loathing they have for themselves.
Absolutely. I coach. That's the main part of the work that I do aside from my podcast. And I help people gain clarity in their purpose and break through their blocks. And I've been there myself. And every issue that an adult struggles with today is the manifestation of something that happened when they were a child.
Yes.
When they were as a child, excuse me. Yes. It's so important. These children are our future. And it's not to sound cliche, but it is the truth. They are like sponges.
And that's exactly what I say all the time. They are our future. And we have got to help and support them and guide them and empower them as much as possible. Because right now, with the horrors that we're seeing, with gangs and crimes and the opioid addiction and mental illness and bullying and suicide, we've never lost so many kids before. I mean, it's unfathomable how many are dying. And to me, it's, where is this going to lead? If they're not dying, we have so many that are now incarcerated. What future do we have?
I agree, but you know what? I have a lot of faith and a lot of hope, because there are people out in the world such as yourself that are changing the narrative. And
I always say, I hope during my lifetime that I will see some significant change. It's coming slowly. I feel with what's just happened with world events that there is a switch, that something has changed, and I'm hoping that we can continue to build on that and move forward to something more positive, because if we don't, we're on a path of just inner combustion.
I think we're going to take the high road. I believe. I say
I hope too. And I mean, I keep every time I speak to someone, they keep saying, you keep showing up, Tracey. And I keep saying, you have to just keep showing up and hope that, every time your actions or a word or something you say or do makes a difference in someone's life. And then that person pays it forward. And that's how it goes on. And it just keeps building and building.
Absolutely. And on that note, we are going through such a huge shift right now as a result of recent events. There are a lot of people in the world experiencing an awakening, if you will.
Yes.
As a result of recent events. And it is important now more than it has ever been for those who are feeling called to do more, to make a bigger impact, to rise and to follow where their soul is guiding them to work. So what advice would you have for others who are at that crossroads right now, feeling called to do their work? What advice would you have for them in terms of being able to take action?
I think it's a nursing brain that says this, because this is exactly what I asked myself when I began on this new life journey. I was taking a huge leap of faith into an unknown, where I still am. But I think it's, if you want to help make a difference, if you believe that you have something that you can do that'll help the world be a kinder, gentler, nicer place, I encourage you to take that step, take that leap of faith. The harsh one that I use for myself is, if I was lying on my deathbed, and I saw my life flash in front of me, would I be satisfied with what I had done with my life? And I always said, I would hate to be at that stage where I looked at the doctor and said, I should have done that. It was something I always wanted to do. I should have done it. I don't leave life with regrets. Live a life with purpose and passion, and to share your gifts, your thoughts, your guidance, your wisdom, whatever it is, with other people, because even if you don't feel you're doing anything, you may have touched someone's life in a way you will never know, but it could literally save a life and go on to be that catalyst for more positive changes. And so I say, if you have a passion, take that first step, because what's surprising is when you go in the direction of what you believe is your purpose, doors open unexpectedly. It seems everything will still keep moving you to the purpose. And it's having that confidence in yourself that it will work out because you have a purpose.
It is so true. I couldn't have said that better myself. Thank you so much. Tracey, how can someone find you if they want to learn more about what you're up to, connect with you, or check out your book?
The easiest way is to go to my website, www.traceymaxfield.com, and they'll find everything they ever need to know about me and more on my website.
Awesome. Tracey, it has been truly a joy having this conversation with you. Honestly, I could talk to you for days.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Thank you for listening to the Awake and On Purpose podcast. Please visit us and subscribe to the podcast at awakeandonpurpose.com so you never miss an episode. To learn more about how you can connect with your higher purpose and take that leap of faith to make your impact in the world, visit us at jenniferspor.com. And while you're there, be sure to join our email list for exclusive offers and a weekly dose of inspiration.